Welcome everyone to an episode of the Old-Timers comic book show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. Joining me this week, as always, is the Professor.
Hey, Johnny, how are you?
I'm very well, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, excellent. Counting the days till football season. That's where I'm at.
It's coming. It's coming.
80 odd days. Come on. Cool.
Winter is coming, and so is football.
It's amazing, isn't it? We look forward to football and we've got a whole summer yet to go, but nope. Forget summer, bring me September. That's what I want.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So, this time around, before we get into the books, it's been a tough year creator wise. There's been the passing of some absolute giants. And this week, it has been noted that Tim Sale has passed away over the last week. Tim Sale is synonymous, I suppose, with as many different books and characters. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Not so much for his Marvel work as for his DC work, but he's made his mark everywhere he's gone.
I agree. I think his DC work is probably the thing that the standout elements, but that's not to say that he hasn't worked in the Marvel universe.
Yes.
Long-time collaborator Jeff Loeb worked together on Daredevil Yellow. They did a whole Spider-Man run with Tim Sale, and then of course you've got Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale on Superman for all seasons. What I like about Sale is he seems to focus a lot on the things that are essential to that character.
Yeah.
So for example, with Superman, you think Tim Sale, you think like creepy art and like strong like lines that build horror elements, but that Superman's just as super as practically anything else, right? Big broad
Yes.
shoulders. Yeah,
That's a bit more reminiscent of like the Kurt Swan Superman than
definitely.
anything else. Is I like the big blocky, kicks in your face on the beach Superman.
Yeah. Damn
Yeah.
you, Superman.
So I have a story about how I discovered Tim Sale's work. Is
Go for it.
um, so you remember that my son has a heart condition, and
Yep.
when he was born, he was up at Boston Children's Hospital for about 6 weeks, where he had heart surgery, and then he was in a coma for a long time before he came out. And every day, as you know, some days I could not stand to sit at by his crib and just watch him laying there. So I used to get up and I used to go down and I used to take the walk out to Fenway Park, which was about a mile and a half from the hospital, and right near Fenway, if you keep going past the corner, there's a comic book store called Comicopia. And what I used to do is I would used to go in there and buy reading material, so and then return back to Children's Hospital, where I did nothing but sit for 6 weeks. And the one of those weeks, I picked up the trade paperback for The Long Halloween.
All right. Okay.
And Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale, and it was the first time that I'd ever read a Batman story and really was kind of sucked into it. Most of the time, Batman was not really my cup of tea, and I just loved the whole style of it, the whole kind of detective slash underworld type aspect of everything, and then with Tim Sale's art and especially his take on Catwoman there, which I really loved.
Yeah, me too.
It just was a new style for me, and to be sucked in to that when it was really I had nothing really better to do than sit and stare at someone, and for that it really was escapism at its finest level.
Brilliant.
And for that, Tim Sale has always kind of been one of my like a fond memory for me when I just kind of thank him for kind of
Helping-
bringing back. Yeah, he kind of brought me away from my life for a while, and that's really what comics is about, right? Is the escapism aspect of it. So sometimes you really need that escapism, and I appreciated that work.
Well, there you go, Professor. Thank you very much. Yeah. Tim Sale, for me, came across. In fact, I have a couple of his prints. He's the artist behind Mendez in the Heroes TV show.
Yes.
So if you remember the Mendez, the guy used to get high, and then his power would be to paint the future. Well, in our bedroom, we have two of his prints. We have the one where Peter and the girl are sitting. Not Peter. Mendez and the girl are stood on the building ledge, and then we've got Peter and the girl under the umbrella, kind of going down. We've got those canvassed, and they're in our bedroom. And so I dug out who Tim Sale was, and very much like you, picked up the Long Halloween, and thought, "Oh my God, really? This is different completely to what I expected from Heroes."
Right.
And then I read it, and then I got the art, and then you see Catwoman, and you think, "Wow!" And then you see Bruce, and you know what? That whole noir Batman at the early stages of his career, absolutely phenomenal. In fact, Long Halloween boasts not one but two sequels. You've got
Dark Victory.
Dark Victory, and you've got Catwoman When in Rome. So there's a little known book, Catwoman. Might do it. I might cover it one of these days. Catwoman When in Rome, which is Tim Sale, Catwoman book. So if you like his art as Catwoman in the Long Halloween, you're going to absolutely love it.
I have a hardcover signed for, I think it's Dark Victory, now that you mention it, from Tim Sale. That is like when I was younger, I had there's a comic book store that I used to go to that ended up giving me a whole bunch of stuff because they didn't really, they liked my business. So I think I got the hardcover as a gift, and I didn't know it was signed by Tim Sale until I opened it. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's somewhere. It's somewhere here.
I mean, I know a lot of people don't like Dark Victory and prefer Long Halloween. I think both work really well. Dark Victory is the introduction of Robin into this particular mythos.
Yes.
So regardless, I guess, regardless of where your Tim Saleism is, whether it's Batman, Catwoman, Superman, Spider-Man, Daredevil, the outpouring of grief on Twitter that's followed his passing is absolutely outstanding. He's going to be missed.
I mean, and it's tough on top of Neil Adams and Judge Perez just in the last couple of months. It's been difficult for us comic book fans that are just watching the Giants kind of fade off into the sunset.
Yeah. So thank you, Tim Sale, for everything that you've done for us as comic book fans. Thank you for giving us some absolute cracking art to look at, and for the storytelling of epic proportions across the board. So thank you, sir. You will be missed. There we go.
Godspeed.
Okay. Cool. Right. Okay. Right. So, Professor, you and I have been talking on No Prize about a certain TV show that we both are absolutely enjoying the pants off. All right. So, what better time for the Ol'Timers to start feeling the force? That's right. It's a Star Wars special. Yay! Yay! Crowd goes wild. All right. So we're going to start off with your choice. What we have here is the Legends set. This is a graphic novel in which it covers the whole Dark Empire trilogy. All right, so we're going to kind of have a look at issue number 1. Let's and maybe a couple more on top of that. Let me get you some facts and figures. Star Wars Dark Empire number 1 ships in 1991. eBay, there's a range of prices for this over here. You can get it for as little as $4.99 or you can spend a whole tenner and get the whole run.
There we go.
Yeah, so whatever. It's written by the late Tom Veitch, art by Cam Kennedy, letters by Todd Klein, and I don't normally mention this, but we will this time around. The covers are by Dave Dorman, and the covers are fantastic.
The covers are the best part of the book.
Really? No way.
For
no
me,
way.
I think so. Yeah,
No.
just this is really the only place you can look at the Star Wars art and actually know which character is which.
Harsh. You can always tell which one's Chewbacca, right? And you can tell R2 from 3PO,
Is that
right?
Chewbacca or Princess Leia? I don't know.
Leia,
But
you need a shift. All right, so you picked this, Professor.
I
Start
did.
us off. What's the
So
story?
this was actually, I mean, this was actually a fond memory for me because I hadn't reread Dark Empire since I first bought it in 1991,
Cool.
and I remember this being the Dark Empire, the first one, and I'm going to concentrate on that one because there was, I reread that one and I got halfway through the second trilogy, but the first one was really the one I remembered. This was hot on the heels of the expanded universe being debuted, right? With the Timothy Zahn Heir to the Empire trilogy.
Yep.
And this was kind of like a sister book to that, but everything that happened in the expanded universe was canon in the Dark Horse series as well. And Dark Horse spent a lot of time really fleshing out Knights of the Old Republic, the Sith Wars, all that kind of stuff. And this Dark Empire was really the first time that we as comic readers had seen Star Wars since Marvel canceled it in 84, right? Or 85. So it had been 6 or 7 years since we had any kind of Star Wars stuff. And then in 97, we get the redos of the original trilogy. So this is it falls kind of flat in the middle, doesn't it? We have like a 5-year break between Return of the Jedi and this, and then we get another 5 or 6 years before we get the remastered versions or the Lucas do-overs, and then the rumors at the time of a new trilogy. So this really was just great for me because it was okay, well, what happens after Jedi, right? We wanted to know, and this was for me reading it. The writing and the story so overpowers the art in this, and I'm not going to slight Cam Kennedy because I think stylistically he's great. I'm not so much of a not that fond of the inks because everything's washed in blues and greens and reds, and to me it can kind of be distracting at times to kind of figure out which character's which. But technically, Cam Kennedy's fantastic. Drawing TIE fighters and Star Destroyers and just the level of look at that. Look at the level of detail on that. It's just the wreckage, and it's a Star Destroyer and the TIE fighter up there and the Millennium Falcon. That just portrays a level of kinetic energy and space and things happening in action, and that's this whole series that he does, and that's his strength. Really, is every time I turn a page and I see some technological Star Wars wizardry and wires and stuff, that's the strength of the book. It's not the face, the talking heads or anything for me anyway. But the drama is really created in the action shots like this. The story for me, I think is incredible, especially looking at the level of stuff that actually was ripped off to do the trilogy. When I was rereading this, I'm like, okay, the Emperor's back and he's a clone, and
and there's an evil heart of the Empire in the universe.
Yeah. Boba Fett comes back, and he has been undigestible by the Sarlacc. It's so a lot of the steps that they keep in this are these. This is where you first see it. So you bring back Boba Fett, you bring back the Emperor. They're talking about Han and Leia's twins, but you don't see them. They're not named. And Leia is pregnant with her third child that we all know is Anakin in this expanded universe canon, but really is Ben Solo, right?
Well, yeah.
So I think a lot of this stuff they keep because even in Dark Empire 2, the Emperor is coveting the child that Leia is carrying around in her womb. So the cool thing about this is another take off of the Death Star with the World Devastators, where it's kind of many big machines that actually go down on the planet and destroy it, rather than having the big Death Star. So I actually like that idea of a weapon other than another Death Star, which the later trilogy rehashes again.
I know. Tell me about it. Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Like, if it works, it doesn't succeed. Try again.
We talked about this on other podcasts, but I mean, Star Wars generally hits the same notes, same dramatic notes, and they reuse like the whole redemption arc is used in almost every show. And here they actually, the first Dark Empire, they did the redemption arc with Luke, right? Because Luke goes willingly over to the dark side to learn about the dark side of the Force and the Sith and the Emperor's plans, and then has a huge struggle trying to pull himself out of the dark side. And then we see Leia, who at this point in time in issue 1 is a Jedi. She's apparently gone through the training.
Mild Jedi powers, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. I mean, she's not nearly as strong as Luke, but she's Force sensitive. She understands the Force. She's willingly accepted it. Han, another story altogether. But to me, this whole series really kind of kicks off the whole expanded universe that carried on for almost 20 years before Disney bought Lucasfilm, right? So this was a great memory for me going back and reading this. I loved the story. It was a little I think it was a little disjointed at the end of the book, at the end of each chapter, because they kind of just cut it off, and then there was no set like tune in next month, right? So you had to really kind of read it all together to get the whole story. It jumps around. They introduce a few new characters, Han's old girlfriend Salazend and Shug Nix, another smuggler that I actually think kind of fit in pretty well with everybody. And then, Lando is a little kind of invisible in this. I mean, he's there. He's there, but, he doesn't really do anything. I liked in the first series of Dark Empire, they have they catch you up at the beginning with the scroll. And I was reading the second trilogy, and I don't think that they did that to me. And when I first started reading the second Dark Empire trilogy this morning, they introduced a couple of new characters, and it seemed like I was supposed to remember them from something else, and it seemed like maybe there was some other series that might have come out between Dark Empire 1 and Dark Empire 2, because Dark Empire 1 was 91 and Dark Empire 2 came out like 93 or 94. But when they introduced Camp Salazar, I think it was assumed that I was supposed to know him, but I was like, oh, I remember the name, but I don't really remember where we've seen him before. But other than that, the only criticism I really had about the artwork was, I mean, you can see that everything's washed in the green or the reds. There's no skin tones or flesh tones or anything, so you really can't. It's difficult to tell who's who in some of these pages.
I'll give you that. I will give you that.
But when I think about it in the first trilogy, it's like all the alliances, the alliance members like all greens and blues, but then when they do the Sith and when they do the Empire, it's all reds and purples. So that makes it a little easier, but it's I would call it mood lighting. I love it when Andrea Sorrentino does it in Green Arrow, right?
Yeah.
I love it when Andrea Sorrentino does it, but here Cam Kennedy, especially because Luke doesn't look like Luke, Han doesn't really look like Han, Leia doesn't really look like Leia. So it's kind of a stylistic forgiveness, but
All right. Okay. Cool. I
what
get where you're coming from with some of the faces. I don't
Yeah.
think it's as dramatic as you said, but you're absolutely right. For me, the covers are great. I agree with you, but for me, the star of the piece, we've already looked at it twice. It's the Millennium Falcon.
Oh yes.
Has the Falcon looked any better than
Nope.
in this book? Never. I love this foreshadowing bit here with, oh my god, it's who's that? And then it comes out that it's Luke, but he's giving it his Vader shapes.
Oh yeah.
Which I quite like that, to be honest. Which again leads from that line from Empire Strikes Back, where Yoda says to Luke, "Once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny." Right?
Yes.
And of course, we all know that Vader's tapping the dark. Luke's tapping the dark side when he takes Vader on at the end of Jedi. That's what gets him the power to defeat him and really hammer at him till he chops his hand off. Yeah?
Yes.
So you could say stylistically that boom, that's the moment when Luke lets the dark side in, and this is just a continuation of his eventual fall into that. Art-wise, I love the art. I'm not gonna lie. When I looked at this the first time around back in the day, I bought this. I bought this new. It was so different to anything else that was on the marketplace.
Yep.
And it looks great. You can see how powerful he is. I love the whole deflecting the blaster shot from the attack with his lightsaber. Pure Star Wars. I love him breaking the attack down with the Force. All that was really good stuff. The big panels really work.
And that's Cam Kennedy's bread and butter here. Those big, gigantic, full page spreads of, and every time it's a full page spread, it's a big ship or it's a big, it's a big action type scene with laser blasters going,
I think the characters look enough like who they're supposed to, but that's always the knock on with tie-in books, isn't it? The artist has to get the faces right for it to.
Yes.
That said, there's a bit, I think it was on page 45 that I got to that I really liked. There's another good cover, gone too far there. 45. Some of the figures do tend to be a little bit blocky, for sure. The Emperor's back. Where was it on 45? I'm sure it was 45 that I really liked. There's nothing on 45. But the Emperor's back, and that was fine. And the story how Leia comes to his rescue, and the power of the twins, and the power of the Force between the pair of them, bring him out of his darkness. I've got an absolute massive confession to make. I dropped out halfway through Dark Empire 2.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, what, more Emperor stuff? Really?
Yeah, it was. But that was Star Wars to me, because they did it in all three trilogies, and they brought the Emperor back for more. So I'm like, well, that's what I was thinking. It was like, isn't there anybody else, any other big threat?
But bear in mind, at this point, where is it? The panel I really liked. It was a Millennium Falcon one. At this point, there hadn't been any other trilogies.
Yes.
It was just Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi.
Right.
That was it. There was no other. There's that panel. There you go. Look at that flying through the. Oh man.
Yeah, it's beautiful stuff.
So
it just looks like Star Wars, doesn't it? It just looks
feels
like Star Wars.
Yeah. So there hadn't been any other trilogies. We still had the first, the 4, 5, and 6, and that was it. Yeah. This was the first step to actually building on that universe and making it canon, as you said. I mean, this led inadvertently to the Shadows of the Empire, which again was a Lucasfilm project, which has seen its fair share of engagement in the Solo movie. Because
Yep.
that Solo movie, everyone hates it and everyone dislikes it.
We
But
wouldn't have Crimson Dawn without Black Sun.
yeah,
Yeah.
but then Black Sun is mentioned in Shadows of the Empire. You've got Terekasi, the martial art that was based on that's from a Lucasfilm fighting game
Yep.
that's mentioned. So there's a whole lot of different things that the Dark Horse universe gave us, as you said, rightly so,
Yes.
that have been pulled into the official canon. Grand Admiral Thrawn, for example, from
Yep.
the Timothy Zahn books, he's a major player in the Clone Wars, and
Yep.
in Rebels, the cartoon show.
It's
So
like Disney walks through the Dark Horse stuff, and it's kind of like a buffet line. Like, I like
yeah,
that. I like that. I'll take some of that.
yeah,
But a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff that I'm just like, that should be canon. I think that Jason and Jaina should be in there. I think they were big enough characters in the expanded universe to justify them being major characters, major players. And wouldn't it have made the new trilogy 7, 8, and 9 that much better if it was Jason and Jaina instead of Ben and Ray?
Well, here's the thing, Ben. There's an existing Ben already. It's Ben Skywalker, not Ben Solo,
Right.
because Luke and Myra Jade get together and have a kid,
That's right. I
and
remember that.
so Ben, and that's before she gets killed by the planet killers that the Force can't touch and stuff. So yeah, there is a Ben Skywalker. And I agree with you. I think it would have made sense to, Jason, Jenya, and Anakin were all major players especially in that range of books that came out,
Yep.
the novels.
Yeah, and Jason turned to the dark side too, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it would have made sense if they just did the new trilogy and had it Jason as the dark side, and then you had Jaina, and then Jaina would have been Han and Leia's daughter. That it kind of, I almost kind of got vibes like that in the Force Awakens when Jaina hugs Leia after Han dies. And so to me, I was just like, this should have been Jaina, should have been Jason.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's frustrating when you think that there's just so much that could have done, and instead to go with something like that, and you're like, it doesn't quite work. And I don't know, maybe it was maybe it was an artistic choice. Maybe it was we can't use them because of copyright and all that sort of stuff. Because I'm sure that Timothy Zahn would have turned around and said, you know what, they're my characters, they're not your characters. You couldn't say that, right?
Yeah, I guess he could have.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know the bloke, but you've got to. And I've said this before. And before we move on to the next book, I've said this before. These were the things that kept us Star Wars fans going whilst we didn't have the movies. People who bitch about Obi-Wan or any of the Star Wars stuff right now, you just want to give your heads a shake. Because back when I was your age, we didn't have anything. We didn't have anything. It was we had three movies, Droid's cartoon show.
Yep.
Right? I'm not even counting the Ewok movies, so don't even get me started on that. And then that's all we had: comic books and books to keep our interest. So,
and even then, it was a dry spell for a few years between Marvel having the rights and Dark Horse picking them up. There was nothing, and that's where I do kind of feel like right now this is we're an embarrassment of riches right now, and we complain about absolutely everything, and of course this is a podcast where we do complain about stuff, but I'm happy with the amount they can come out with Star Wars content for me for now until Doomsday. I am a sucker. I will watch it all. I will buy it all. I will do it. They have me. I'm drawing the line at spending $5,000 a night to stay in the hotel down in Florida. Just not going to do it. But
no. You're into Star Wars all the way until the Panthers come home. All right.
Yes.
All right. Before we get into the next book, let's take one of our adverts. Well, you know what? We're talking Star Wars. You can't think Star Wars without thinking Marvel. Can't think of Marvel on the UCPN without thinking of this. It's the No Prize Podcast. There you go, No Prize Podcast, the Professor's Pod, where you will hear everything from the Marvel books, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and of course Disney Plus. So if you want to feel the Force, go check it out.
Yeah.
Of course, you've got Thor: Love and Thunder coming up soon, so as well.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, cool. Right, my choice. And I've said this before. I love the first volume of Marvel Star Wars comics. Love them, love them, love them. I love the Space Rabbit. I love the Bounty Hunters. All right. And I especially love that magical time between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. It's ironic why I like this so much. Han Solo, my favorite character, is not even in it.
Yeah.
Hardly. So looking through the myriad numbers of Star Wars comics is absolutely bonkers. You got to think in that little space of time, you have Plith and the
Yep.
Hughes. You've got the Tarkin. You've got the Pariah storyline. You've got Cody Sunchild. You've got Danny and the Zeltrons. All right, and of course we have probably, bearing in mind how my feelings on how rubbish a bad guy Darth Vader is, we probably have Darth Vader being at his baddest in this particular issue. Again, we're taking it from the Legends trade, although you can buy it. I could not find a price for this on eBay. I did find one that had been signed by Stan Lee for £8,000, but hey ho.
Wow.
Stateside, would you believe this is between $36 and $110?
I wouldn't believe that. I mean, I would think that the entire Star Wars comic book run from the 70s and 80s would probably be able to get on the cheap, because there are books that aren't in canon anymore, and they never really were, right?
Right.
And to me, some of the quality of the books was questionable.
It does, definitely. I'll tell you a quick story about Marvel. I think I might have said this before. Back in the day, I was in a bookshop in Bishop Auckland, and I managed to pick up 10 comic books for £1.70. So I paid 17 pence a copy. In there was a New Mutants 87, first appearance of Cable.
Well, there you go.
Back, I knew who it was, so that was fine. So back then, I wasn't into Mutants, I wasn't into Cable, and I certainly wasn't into Liefeld. Not much has changed since then. Still, I took the book to the Books and Comics in Stockton, where I managed to parlay the book for £50 worth of store credit, of which I managed to buy practically the entire Star Wars run.
There you go, right?
I'm talking, this is like the 80s, so as again, the fact there was no Star Wars material, the book had been cancelled, and so on. Right, so we'll get into this issue. This is the plot and scripts by Joe Duffy, breakdowns by Ron Frenz, who on Star Wars, I'm not going to lie, I don't think he's ever looked better.
Yep.
Maybe not this issue in places.
Tom Palmer ranking him.
Yeah, Tom Palmer over the top. Letters by Joe Rosen and colours by Glynis Ween, or Wen, depending on how you pronounce it. Now, this issue, why I picked this issue, this is the last issue of that run between Empire and Jedi.
Yeah.
All right. This ties into Jedi massively. The guys are on the hunt for Ty Vanis, who has the information from the Bothans about the Death Star. All right. This is, of course, published after Jedi, so we know Yeah, we know that's what's going to happen, right? So, um, right. Um, so going along the way, the guys end up. I mean, look at that. That's a great Luke Skywalker picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guys are on this mission to go and get the spy, get the tapes. In the process, they come across Darth being absolutely Darth, and this droid Ellie, who is she the hero of the piece?
She is
Yeah,
also very reminiscent of Metropolis.
definitely.
Yeah.
Which it was also the inspiration for 3PO. So,
Yes.
of course, 3PO is fluent in 6 million forms of lovemaking. I mean, communication. And he wants to interface with her, but of course, her heart belongs to someone else. Um, as the story goes, and I just look at that page. That is Luke being Luke, isn't it?
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah, perfect. So the shades of Return of the Jedi in the artwork, where they're wearing the fatigues for when they're on Endor. Nice little foreshadowing bit, use of, I suppose, the what we see in Jedi to make it look concurrent. You can tell
Yeah.
it's Leia because she's got her buns on her head. You can tell it's Luke because he's got blonde hair. What more do you need, right? Um, all comes to light that it's a big hoax in that all the time Darth had the spy
Yep.
and still doesn't have the plans. But again, it's Darth, right? He never gets the plans. Um, and he gives them the prize, which is Ty Venice, but he's a broken man there in a shell shock state. Um, and then Ellie pops up and commits the ultimate act. Just look at that bomb panel. Look how much,
Mm-hmm.
and then implodes. Luke decides to blow up the place just to give him a monument. And then the thing that absolutely breaks your heart is that last panel of 3PO.
Yep.
Yeah. I looked at this book today to do the show, and all the emotions when I read this the first time around just came screaming back.
Yep.
What a great issue to end that period of Star Wars. Darth being Darth for a change, Luke being Luke, and everything else just falling into place. What did you think?
Um, I thought this was a gem in the middle of that run
Mm,
towards the end of I think post Jedi when they come back and then they have to kind of do their own thing and
hmm.
map out something and they can't use Vader anymore.
Yep.
Then it kind of not that they use Vader that much in this series anyway,
Hmm.
but I think that's when the book kind of lost its feel for me. But
Agreed.
even in between, like we had gone, this is like the end of like a 2 to 3 year period that they couldn't use Han Solo,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they were introducing other characters, trying to make them have like some kind of smuggler type feel, and
Rick Jewell and his gang.
yeah,
There was a Greedo. There was Danny the Zeltron who loved
right,
Luke.
yeah, yeah. So and that's what, like when I say the of questionable quality, that's when they're switching writers a lot. Joe Duffy comes in here and does a great job with giving us like almost just like it was like a C3PO love story, but
Mm,
it was not a C3PO love story because he wasn't, it was just the feeling throughout the whole book where
mm,
he's kind of you get the feeling that he's smitten with Ellie,
yep.
but never really does anything about it because it's C3PO. But then you just have that last panel where you kind of know how he's feeling, you know, and that to me was just a great story. I think you're right, Ron Friends. You know, Ron Friends has been like I think one of the great chameleon artists that has ever really come down the pike because
Yeah.
he can just take on anybody's style and almost mimic. Like he mimicked Kirby when he on his run on Thor. When he was doing Spider-Man, he was mimicking John Romita Jr. or John Romita. And here he's really, I would think we said how important it was for the characters to look like the actors and the actresses. Here they do, and then Tom Palmer always, I've never seen an inker that can enhance a creator or a penciler more than he does. He puts his own style on it, on his inking style, but he always enhances the original artist, and that's what the inker is supposed to do. And I've seen disasters happen before with inkers coming on and just like obliterating the penciler. Here, it's just amazing for me. So yeah, the story's great, the art's great. Um, and I can't say that about a lot of this run, especially the early Star Wars stuff, where they didn't have the roadmap, or they were just working. They were just working off of promotional shots, and they didn't, So yeah. Here is, I mean, here you can tell that you can tell that everybody here that's in the artwork has all seen Jedi.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give you that.
Yeah, but they're not, they're in the books. They weren't really allowed to go into all that stuff before they transitioned from Empire to Jedi. So, so it was great, and it really kind of brought me back to the early '80s when I was a kid, and it was Star Wars was the thing. That was what we all kind of lived for and wanted to. I wanted to suck up everything that I could get as far as what was being published.
Joe Duffy, I agree with you on Friends. I think I also liked his run on Spider-Man.
Yes.
When he brought in the alien suit. What's that?
Yep.
280, 281? No,
before no, 231, 230, 250, 53, 253. Yeah,
so very much of the same ilk. I think Joe Duffy was kind of I don't want to say second-rate writer because I don't think she is at all, but she was very much a bench player. She would come in, drop something, do it well. She known probably more as an editor than a writer in some cases. But this is a wordy book, and it has to be to generate. The fact that they have to use new characters because you cannot change the status quo of the main cast too much. Obviously, we see Luke a lot more confident with his Force abilities, which, to be fair, from this run, from the Empire to Jedi section, you see that progress all the way through. So that's pretty good. You're right about some of the early issues. It's funny because some of the early issues you've got to think about. You've had the list of creators that worked on Star Wars: David Michelinie, Walt Simonson, or Simonson, depending on if you're me or you say it right, one of the two. Oh man, I had someone in mind and it totally went out my head. Carmen Infantino.
Yep, I think we saw. Wasn't Bill Mantlo? Did he wrote some Star Wars too? Yeah.
J.M. DeMatteis.
Yep.
Wrote some Star Wars. In fact, there's a famous incident in which he wanted to write his issue, which is the Cody Sunchild issue. He wanted it to end a certain way, and when Marvel changed it, that's when he left. So, but funnily enough, the original ending of the book actually made it to UK printers.
Really?
So, yep. So how the book was intended to end was seen in the UK. How it ended, Marvel style, happened US.
Was the ending a big deal?
Yeah, the ending was that Cody Sunchild, who had powers, he was a warrior. He'd gone through a black hole into another sort of hidden world, and he'd become a pacifist. And the original ending was that he wouldn't do anything, and he'd let the Imperial Star Destroyer, which had followed the Millennium Falcon in, he let the Star Destroyer lay waste to the world. Whereas the Marvel version was like, no, he's not doing that. He would lose his temper. Out comes the demon, breaks the the Star Destroyer apart, and fly off. But the one I saw, when the Star Destroyer destroys the planet, Lando's crying because he's on his search for Han Solo with Chewbacca. He says, "Why did you do that? He had the power to stop them. He just didn't use it." The Falcon goes back through the black hole, and as they go through the black hole, they close the black hole somehow. He says, "Let this be let the Star Destroyers stuck in the world be Cody Sunchild's last testament," and just poof, that's how it ends. So that total change of pace. So
Yeah.
Interesting. But then again, James DeMatteis was always known for trying to do stuff like that. Remember his Captain America storyline that got nixed at the end, right at the end, where he was going to have the Native American pick up the shield that Captain America threw out. Is it Black Crow?
Yes.
Yes, cool. Just help me out with this panel, this last panel. I seem to remember an issue of Avengers where Joe Caster is in a very similar situation, where she's looking in the rain and she's looking upset.
Is it Joe Caster or Vision?
No, it's Joe Caster. I'm sure it's a Joe Caster one.
Because Vision, they did that classic, even an android can cry.
Yeah, which issue is that?
I can't remember, but it was John Buscema and Tom Palmer. So
Yeah,
you know,
so there you go. That's your homework for today, Professor. Help me out and find that out for me, please. That'd be great. All right. Okay. So we've talked about Dark Horse. We've talked about Marvel.
Yeah.
You know what? That wasn't it, though, was it?
No, there was a lot of multimedia type stuff for Star Wars back then.
Thanks to the guys at Dark Horse and now Marvel, you can actually get the newspaper comic strips. Now, these fall into two camps predominantly. All right. You've got the Russ Manning stuff, and then you've got the Al Williamson and Archie Goodwin stuff. Those are the general camps in which these fall in. That's not to say they were the only creators working on this, because they weren't. You know, there's a shed load of people who've worked on this. I'm just going to go through some of the names. We're not going to go too much into them. So you've got Russ Manning, Russ Helm, Don Christensen, Archie Goodwin I've mentioned, Steve Gerber. Is it Gerber or Gerber?
Gerber.
Arthur Gerber. Rick Hoberg, which we've talked about before, and Brian Daly, which is a name synonymous with the Han Solo novels that came out from Sphere Books over here. That's Han Solo at Star's End, Han Solo The Lost Legacy, and Han Solo's Revenge. There you go. Pencilers are Russ Manning, Alfredo Alcala with Al Williamson and Rick Hoberg. Whole host of inkers and colorists on there. It's safe to say that the Star Wars newspaper strips are an acquired taste.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, very forgettable for the most part.
They start off, as you can see, quite cartoony, I guess. The kind of loads of words, not a lot of it happens in segments as you'd expect it to. Not a lot of recognizable stuff going on. God knows why the Enterprise is in this. Just saying. But the droids doing spacewalk has been used before in other places, so it kind of fits with that. What did you think of did you look through both volumes, or did you just look at volume one?
I flipped through them, to be honest, and I read the first few strips, and I was like, this isn't for me, and I'm not going to waste my time reading it. But for the thing, what I can tell you from my memory is when we were actually, I would actually be over my grandparents' house, and they would have the Sunday paper, and I would read Star Wars in the Sunday funnies, we used to call them.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed it as a child for that, because it was Star Wars that I was not used to seeing it on the comic. Yeah. When did this first come out? Was this between Star Wars and Empire, or between?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't know who this character is, but I wish she was in it more.
There was, and I saw that a few different times where they would just introduce characters, and we were just supposed to assume that we were okay with them introducing new characters. When they first introduced Luke, in the Sunday strip. He's traveling with a couple of other characters that we were just assumed that we were supposed to know. And of course, the whole way that they portrayed Chewbacca, and where he just kind of looks like a guy in a Bigfoot suit, which was of course the original the Star Wars comic from Marvel. They really couldn't draw Chewbacca to save their life. So it is kind of interesting to see. I mean, if you're a completist, you kind of want this, right?
Right.
But yeah, the artists are so guilty about some of the stuff, like all the aliens sometimes are just based on animals, right? I mean, you just saw the cat person, a frog person.
There's a frog person there.
Yeah. So seeing that, it's really kind of seems to be like the easy way out for some of these artists. But in their defense, they don't really have a lot of stuff to fall back on. As far as you have the cantina scene, I don't know why they can't draw cantina aliens in there.
Yeah, you'd think, right?
Yeah. Why do you make a cat person or a frog person? Can't you draw a walrus man or hammerhead? To put a hammerhead in there.
I think, I agree. It is very much a slice of Star Wars that, as you said earlier, people aren't familiar with so much. But for me, I think when Archie Goodwin comes in and Al Williamson, things get a little bit better, a little bit more consistent. Although, even that said, it is a little bit Flash Gordon in places.
You just took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to that, especially that cover that we just saw with them sitting on the dinosaurs. I was like, that's so Flash Gordon. It's not. It's like it could be a ripoff. Could be a swipe.
Could be. What I like about Williamson's art, though, he makes once you get used to it, and bear in mind Al Williamson did work on the adaptation for The Empire Strikes Back. Once you get used to his version of how the characters look like, he remains consistent, and very much like Cam Kennedy, he can draw good Vader. He draws it great. Like the technical details are on there. I mean, look at R2. R2 looks like R2. 3PO looks like 3PO.
And those are very difficult characters to draw correctly.
Yeah. Right? I mean, the Millennium Falcon looks all right, although the bottom gun's missing there. Thanks to this run, we get to see things like what happened at Ord Mantell, right? Which is mentioned in Empire when Han's trying to leave.
Yep.
Leia's argument and goes, well, the bounty hunter ran into an Ord Mantell, changed my mind. It works well. They look like who they're supposed to. Is it disjointed reading it in this fashion? Yes, it most certainly is. Is it a slice of Star Wars that you think, you know what? Yeah, I get that. I get that it could feel like that. But for me, man, again, back in the day, that's all you had, man.
Happy to get whatever we could.
Yeah. In fact, I would say over here, I don't even remember seeing the Star Wars comic strip. The time I got into the comic strip was through the Dark Horse collection that came out. And they did the Archie Goodwin and Al Williamson stuff first.
Yeah.
And then they went and said, oh, hold on, there's this other stuff from Russ Manning. And then they did the Russ Manning stuff. So there you go. So there you go. Three lots of different Star Wars in comic
and old-timer Star Wars too. So that's
all old-timers. Of course, Star Wars is going live pretty strong right now. They've got a raft of books from Marvel, so you can always check out where they are with that. They're currently the main book set between Empire and Jedi, isn't it? Still
Empire's, the Marvel books are set between Empire and Jedi right now, and I think they stay there for quite a while. They're not gonna. The Darth Vader book, I think, is the best book they're putting out right now, and they can't go past Jedi on that. So,
there you go.
And they did. They moved from Star Wars to Empire maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago now, and now with Crimson Reign. I want to see them stay in this era for quite a bit of time. I mean, I definitely want to see Han Solo back in the books, but so eventually they're gonna have to move it somewhere.
Well, he
But
has his own book right now, doesn't it? So for there's a Han Solo
yeah,
and Chewbacca
yeah,
book for
yeah.
those that read. So they're covering all the bases.
They definitely are. Plus, I mean, you're getting an Old Republic type book, and they're well. I think we'll see them enter new ground. I think with they're doing Dr. Aphra right now, and it's only a matter of time before Dr. Aphra shows up in the Disney Plus somewhere. That's a diverse character, and it'll be a diverse take for Disney Plus. They should be all over it. I'm surprised there's nothing that's been announced yet.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
All right.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, there you go. It's pretty much a safe bet. Well done. All right. Excellent. There you go. 3 up, 3 down, as always. Professor, been an absolute blast. Really enjoyed talking Star Wars with a fellow
As
fan.
always, Johnny. Thank you.
Excellent. You're welcome. Don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows, including Professor
No Prize Podcast, all about the MCU, Disney Plus, and of course the comics.
Excellent. And of course, you've got the Definitive Crusades, sister show of MPP, all about DC Comics. So basically, Batman. I didn't say that. And of course, if you're interested in creators, large or small print, you can always check out Outside the Panels for all the interviews that are going on with them. All right, there you go. We're all done. As always, a blast.
Thank you. Yes, as always. It's really fun. I love this one.
I've been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes. So for everyone else, adios.